Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to look at a frankly terrifying paradox facing executives today. It's this wild phenomenon that is costing companies millions of dollars, yet it goes completely undetected for months on end. We're going to explore exactly why failed AI implementations actually look like massive, glowing successes for an entire year before the bottom just completely falls out. So, if you are anywhere near an AI budget or an implementation strategy right now, this is something you absolutely need to understand before you fund the answer.
Think about this. Most failed AI implementations literally do not look like failures for an entire year. The dashboards, they stay perfectly green. You know the drill. A new AI tool rolls out, the demos land beautifully, the board is absolutely thrilled with this forward-thinking initiative. And those green dashboards provide this deep, false sense of comfort. But while everyone is patting themselves on the back, an invisible failure is quietly rotting the organization from the inside out. The system has slowly started making the crucial judgment calls your best managers used to make, and it's getting them subtly, dangerously wrong.
Here's the thing. We're in the middle of a massive shift from descriptive AI to world model AI. Descriptive AI, well, that was the first wave, right? It summarizes, it drafts emails, it answers basic questions. If a descriptive tool makes a mistake, it's just annoying. You see it, you fix it, moving on. But world model AI, that's entirely different. It builds an internal model of how your business actually works to predict and act on your behalf. So when it's subtly wrong, it is incredibly dangerous precisely because it is confident, consistent, and embedded so deep within your workflow that no one is even double-checking it anymore. So to completely shatter the illusion of those comfortable green dashboards, here's what we're going to cover today. The silent AI failure, 3 ways implementations rot, the 20-minute diagnostic, the independence feature, and finally, staying ready.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the silent AI failure.
It's all about this painfully slow feedback loop. Month 1, the demo lands. Everybody's high-fiving. Fast forward to month 4, and those dashboards are still green. Why? Well, because dashboards usually just measure output volume, not the nuance of complex decisions. By month 8, the judgment, the actual quality of the calls being made upstream, has significantly eroded. And by month 12, the actual business metrics finally catch up with those poor decisions. At this point, the budget is completely spent, and you literally have a disaster on your hands.
And then, what happens at that 12-month mark? Well, everyone sits around in a post-mortem meeting, and they conveniently agree, execution was off. It's a nice, tidy story to save face. But the unspoken truth, the organization was never ready for the thing they just bought. They blindly funded a solution without diagnosing their own readiness. They bought a world model system for an organization that didn't truly understand its own underlying structure.
Moving on to Section 2, 3 ways implementations rot.
Now, world model AI doesn't just fail in some generic one-size-fits-all way. Actually, it specifically targets the unique blind spots of your business model. Take a second and think about where you fit in here. If you're a data-rich business, you tend to converge hard on what you already track. The AI optimizes those visible metrics beautifully, but it quietly erodes everything you don't measure, which, let's be honest, are often the things that actually matter. If you are a complex or regulated business, you build a perfect AI model of how you operate today, locking yourself into a rigid structure that cannot adapt to inevitable regulatory changes like HIPAA or NIS2. And if you're a document-driven business, constantly producing memos and analysis, you suffer the subtlest failure of the bunch. You get fooled by confident, perfectly formatted hallucinations, mistaking a fluent document for the underlying truth. Your greatest strength literally becomes the shape of your failure.
That brings us to Section 3, the 20-minute diagnostic.
Listen, you absolutely do not have to wait 4 quarters, burn through a massive budget, and suffer through a miserable postmortem just to find out your specific failure mode. There is a much, much cheaper way. Just 20 minutes. That's it. 20 minutes and a corporate email before you sign a single thing. It tells you honestly and right away if the massive investment you are about to approve will compound your growth or just quietly evaporate into thin air. I mean, it is hands down the cheapest decision you will ever make about AI.
And in those 20 minutes, instead of getting fed generic buzzwords, you get these 6 highly tangible outputs built to survive contact with a demanding board of directors. You get a clear verdict, like not ready or scale, framed in language a CFO actually respects. You get your real exposure named based on those 3 business types we just talked about. It gives you a percentile score against your peers, recalibrates the advice to your specific vertical's data and regulatory realities, and it even quotes your own answers back to you. Best of all, it ends with a plan for Monday. 3 concrete actions tied to your weakest dimension that you can legitimately execute in the next 30 days.
Let's dive into Section 4, the Independence feature.
This diagnostic tool builds a ton of trust through what is basically an anti-pitch persona. And let's be real, in today's B2B software landscape, that is incredibly rare. Typical assessments out there use a free diagnosis purely as a hook. It's a trapdoor straight into a sales call where the vendor has a heavy thumb on the scale, always pushing you toward, hey, you're ready, let's talk pricing. The Readiness Diagnostic is fundamentally different. It deletes your email once the report is sent. No follow-up machine, no sales funnel. It has absolutely nothing to gain from telling you anything but the brutal truth, especially if that truth is that you are simply not ready.
Its fierce independence is exactly why 3 distinct groups can actually trust it. You've got CEOs who are, weeks away from approving a massive spend based entirely on a flashy vendor demo. You've got boards and investors who desperately need an unbiased, independent read before greenlighting real money. And of course, the heads of data and operations who will personally own the implementation and frankly, own the blame if it silently rots over the next year. It is absolutely a crucial precursor before committing to any 6-figure spend.
Finally, Section 5, Staying Ready.
This whole idea isn't just a simple checklist. It genuinely sits at the absolute center of any successful long-term enterprise AI strategy. And I absolutely love this concept here, subtraction. Think about it for a second. AI makes generating code, text, and analysis incredibly cheap and easy. So when making things gets cheap, the truly scarce skill becomes human judgment about what to remove. Readiness is fundamentally an exercise in subtraction. It deliberately strips away the noise, the vendor theater, and that false comfort of green dashboards so you can clearly see the few, vital things that actually determine whether the implementation will survive out there in the wild.
Because the ultimate goal of an AI implementation was never just to buy a single product, right, or license some piece of software. The real goal is to stay genuinely ready for this massive structural shift in how businesses operate. The shift from AI that merely describes your business to AI that actually predicts and acts on your behalf. Ultimately, the only thing more expensive than taking 20 minutes to assess your readiness is spending 12 months and a massive budget finding out the answer the slow way.
Which brings us right to the final, absolutely critical question you have to ask yourself and your executive team right now. Which camp are you in? Are you willing to risk a silent, year-long failure just because a demo looked pretty and the dashboard stayed green? Or will you take just 20 minutes to strip away all the noise and find out exactly where you stand before you write the check? The choice is entirely yours, but remember this: the failure of a deciding system doesn't announce itself until the damage is already done. Find out before you fund the answer.